They. They're working. We did.
The
Yeah, he was all happy for about 10 minutes.
yeah.
Because I think you've been against that guy just on that property. Somebody else would have done.
Yeah, he wasn't voting against him. They didn't come in till the end. But I mean, he should. You still want to buy it?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll sit down and say.
That's okay.
He had this one.
All right, man.
I was gonna say, I mean,
You said yesterday.
I
I
think,
think he was more interested.
So you have like 5 minutes after.
Yeah, I don't.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I think,
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, just think that, you think about
I usually assign Jack on EPC to do it.
it. Just say after expenses, generally 68. No,
It's all scheduled in there.
Alright.
compared to a rental house or something,
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
just kind of steady as you go.
mhm.
Just needs a little TLC.
Right.
Needs that.
You think somebody's
$30,000
gonna,
of TLC.
somebody's gonna continue the business and we could just.
We bought all the inventory.
No, they'll continue the business.
You really see that during the. What they were saying in the crowd.
They told the employees not to worry. That they were gonna get it up as soon
Maybe
as they
they'll
can.
expand the business and build it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what they were talking about.
that's good,
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. I mean,
because the farm supply business was all, was forgotten. Up on the hill.
yeah, I think.
It's unfortunate.
I didn't have this, so you could, I mean, have a lot. Bill had sent out, comments about. How the town. The town decides on donations. This year there was $3,000 into the Boys and Girls Club. And he had sent around this long procedure that Alomar County uses. Which is, I think, way too long, too complicated for what we think. So, we can go through it or just kind of. On what we think would be a reasonable adjustment in the town.
I think we should just outline.
Okay. I think the first thing obviously is it has to be a nonprofit. So, they had here 503(1)(c). I just would say nonprofit, and just leave it at that. Then. And if it's a nonprofit, then they had thinking about to find out state corporation, well, if you're nonprofit, you have to get through all that. This idea with the Lions Clubs, you know, all that. And you should be having submitted, income tax to the government. So that's all should be as their ongoing nonprofit.
Yeah, so our attorney would know how to word it perfectly, but it's basically a nonprofit in good standing. That's really what it is.
Yes.
You know, we don't have to police all this stuff. They just have to.
But
make it
should they take a closer look at the town budget and the overall health of the town before they consider having money available for this?
I don't disagree. It's unfortunately, they decided to put it in the budget. What's been asked is if they choose to give it to a nonprofit, what procedures would be in place to make that discussion? In my personal opinion, we already have a procedure in place. Anything over $500 has to be approved by town council. There'll still be a discussion, all that kind of stuff. I think they're looking more for, I don't know, a call for applications, you know, that kind of stuff. I think we're trying to complicate something that we already have that's pretty damn simple.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
I think what Bill's comment was. The money's gone to the Boys and Girls Club in the last 2 years. And he says that there are organizations that he thinks may be. Just as. Needing and just as justified. So he wanted to have a procedure where. A simple procedure where the town could ask. Other organizations that. We should be thinking of for. The town if they are gonna give money. And I think your comment when they do the budget is a separate one, and that is what are the priorities of the town.
I think that needs to be part of that. That they need to really prioritize, can they afford that budget? Because it is a budget. It's nice to do. But at the same time. We just walked back from the farmer's market. We are gonna have enough money in the budget now to fix what's needs to be fixed. Should council prioritize town park or building before nonprofit?
I think they should. The question is, what procedures need to be in place if they do choose to go down that road?
Yeah,
That's the question.
I agree with Matthew. I talked with Bill last week. And like weighing the thing, because I agree with him, it's like. County's gonna, it's gonna be much more complicated than anything.
We're
Practical.
figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
We don't need their stuff.
yeah. But to the point, the simplest is just having a council have a vote on it. But then.
I don't think it ought to be a point of discussion until you present that the town is healthy enough.
Yeah.
To consider. That's where I think it is. We shouldn't be even voting on it unless there's money to be available. And right now, we're spending something that's not available.
Understood, there's 2 points here, though, George.
There's two separate points.
There's 2 separate points, and the one is, you're saying whether or not the town should do this should be discussed. And it was, and we put it in the budget. It was not unanimous. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was approved. This, the point that we were tasked is what procedure should be in place to ensure that everyone gets a fair shake at it.
Sure, I totally.
So we're
agree.
talking about 2 different things.
I'm simply saying, I think there should be some criteria. As the budget's being made. To say whether we can even put it in the budget, and there's criteria that would say, we don't have enough money to. Do these things, we cannot consider a charity,
Yeah, I mean,
period,
that makes sense with any, like,
but.
if you're making a
But
budget.
that has to be
It's a
a
priority.
rule for you to go through
Mhm.
before you present a budget.
I mean, that's actually a bigger thing is when you look at the town. All the money in the budget should be first, we should have a list of your priorities.
Mhm.
And then go through the list of priorities. And, there are things in the budget that are. People would say are lower priorities than others. And, you just have to say where it is in the priority list. And, it's for the town council to make a decision about what they want to do. You get lower down priority.
Right, and council already does that.
Yes.
And council decided, even with a healthy discussion throughout the entire year over this subject matter, that they were gonna do it anyway. Council made that decision, so that's already in
I think there
place.
should be a guideline before it gets to council, that they can't do that unless we have satisfied the needs of the town. That's just my opinion. I know what you're saying, and I agree with the other parts of it.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying a guideline to,
yeah, but I think what Matthew was saying is that they're gonna do it anyway. And if they're going to do it anyway, then what are their requirements? If that's what they're asking for.
That's basically what it is. The first part of the budget, and the second is they decide to do it. Is there a procedure instead of just
So
the
is this-
town council asking, saying we want to give the money to somewhere? Is there a procedure?
So is there an application process?
An application.
So is it currently that anybody can come to town and ask for money? And the town would then consider that? So do you want to have a deadline as far as for the next budget of, any desired funds need to be asked for by such and such a date, and that these have to be located within the town of Scottsville proper? Is that what you're asking for?
That's what I'm at.
I'd say-
So, yeah, it should be, open to, my opinion, would be open to all nonprofits, good standing within the town. His main purpose, main objective is to support people in need within the town.
I don't think we should define what their mission statement is. They're a nonprofit, then it can be sorted. So the town council is the one who's gonna decide who gets it. And based on their presentation or based on their plea or whatever you wanna call it. So we don't have to define that. We are defining that they're a nonprofit, they're in good standing, thus active and legal. And we're defining that they function in our town. That's pretty big. That's a lot of definitions. Who's to say someone trying to raise money for feeding the cats in front of our mailbox is doing something good for the town or not? There'll be an argument on that, right? Who's to say, the Boys and Girls Club, there could be an argument on that. The point is, they're in good standing, they're nonprofits in our town, and we have limited people, nonprofits working within our town. I think that's pretty simple, Well, what's the difference between socks and cat food and taking care of your children? That's our council
as well.
Huh?
A fireworks fund as well.
Well, that's a different subject, but yes, they could apply too. I
Yeah.
assume they're a nonprofit.
That's what I would think.
I don't know if the fire department is or not.
So
Okay, that's what I mean. I don't know.
Mhm.
So yes, they would fit into that
That's
criteria,
tough to raise up in every year.
but they would fit into that criteria,
Right.
the simple criteria.
And I think there should be an ample time for them to apply, a deadline. So the town council should come up with a deadline time for them to apply.
I like that one.
September 29th.
Like January 1. I mean, Better Living Corporation, you don't apply during the month of December. You're not considered the rest of the year.
Yeah, whatever's also considered to, nonprofits, because I'm gonna guess that some of them are pretty small. So being able to, if any process, being able to kind of navigate it. But yeah, some kind of deadline to allow enough time, so we aren't in the 11th hour.
And what's the visibility of that nonprofit in town too?
But
What do
again,
you mean?
that's to be decided through application and through the discussion by council. Someone could decide that scan is more visible, but they like socks, and if they have enough votes, then it goes to socks. It's that simple.
So basically, we're saying nonprofit good standing located in the town is an application of measures.
Just put a letter of intent. It doesn't have to do an application. It's just a letter of intent. That they would like to be considered for whatever this thing is called. What's the technical term in the budget, Javier?
Community support.
It's community support, which is what the money's allocated to. Community support and then contact information. And then, of course, if the council would like, and it would make sense, allow them to come and speak at a certain meeting. Now, council, it sounds like that would take 2-3 months
Yeah.
to do. But you still need the deadline of getting it in by January, so that council can do it. Before the budget's up.
And then allows like a consideration by the end of the year, the budget and everything. So you can holistically have some conversation about.
Suggest a deadline around January 1st.
Why don't we say January 15th, because most people aren't
Since
as
by
active.
March, you should be getting a whole lot of stuff and almost hard copy, but then.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of time.
I would do 15 because, just because of that holiday slow. And also, even if we were to recommend this out today and the momentum to be going. November's approaching, you know what I mean? Not that it's elaborate, but
Yeah, and our application isn't they're not asking for, kind of like, remember with the website, a 40 or an 80-page application, we're not asking for anything like that. We're just asking you to put your name in the hat and give us contact information. And then if you want to say something, you can. But that then gives the town enough time to take care of it, but also too, in the past, council has decided to waive their December meetings.
Yeah.
That has happened before, so. That's why I just said January 15th makes more sense than January 1st.
With that. New letter, they. Over time, obviously, it's a suggestion why they want them.
Right, and if they have a prepared booklet that they want to send, great. If they just want to say what the organization does, that's great, it's up to them.
And there's some nonprofits that might not need $3,000 or what we have budgeted, but it might be $1,000.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Bill mentioned that too.
yeah, absolutely. But the issue too, though, is once you start opening this, and we are opening it, then the town becomes the charity. And we're not a charity, in my opinion, but council has decided they want to move forward with this. But now, once you start asking for applications every year, how do you sit there and go, yeah, we're not doing it this year?
It's one case turn on.
Unfortunately, that's what I feel about it, but
Mm.
some of
Scan
them,
already is getting charitable contribution effective,
sure,
right?
well, we got a $7,000 kiosk for free.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
So that was the main thing that Bill had raised. Then about the Zoom. The meetings, so it was awesome.
now who raised that concern?
Name is Peter, I don't know his last name. I know he lives in town.
Peter Rock, is it Peter?
Maybe very well be.
Nancy Wilkerson?
Oh,
Is
okay,
it Is Peter, right? Right, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it is. No, I'm just curious, did you like them to come to a meeting?
Yes, about that.
Always invite them to come to a meeting, please.
He said, no, I'd rather watch the
That's the thing that moved to the volunteer.
I'd rather watch the Zoom, because that way I could fast forward areas of the discussion. I don't wanna.
Well, we would rather participate in Zoom, so I can still wear my pajamas, come on, man.
As you know to it.
Mhm.
If Scott, if I can kind of train you, so.
Yeah.
To go back up,
Yeah.
it's relatively easy.
I will be here for the November. I will not be here in December.
That was my point about the deadline.
That's the 15th.
Yeah, so,
right? Okay.
thank you for demonstrating that, Stott, I appreciate it.
Around the world. Yeah.
It's tough meeting you, it really is, yeah. Look at that smile, he's like, yeah.
Enjoy retirement.
I love it. That's what retirement should be about, yeah, Joey the hell.
Was there anything else that?
Well, Kevin wanted to talk to, not, but, Dan about maintenance, so. Are we ever gonna get a meeting back in place,
So we have this in next meeting.
We said just that one time we have a meeting with Jen.
Yeah, so I talked to Bill and what I wanted to do is use this meeting to get input on Jam. And those discussion items you had. I'll ask Jam to also reach out to you personally. Because I had some questions about, you sent an email with Canal Basin, so I just wanted him to follow up. You sent like an email maybe like 2-3 weeks ago from Canal Basin,
Oh, yeah, I may have sent, we just.
or maybe
some-
Bill forwarded it.
Yeah, maybe there's some questions.
So I,
But maybe he could get a sense of what. It's not translating, of what we think needs to happen. You have to monitor and master what happens when, but I think he needs to get a sense of what we believe needs to happen as opposed to reactions. And he would have had the weeds and the bricks and the bridge, he would have them gone, I believe, if he knew. It was sincere want and need for that to happen.
That may, might be short selling if we could try to have a conversation like now and see if that could translate over into James' work. So I wanted to use this as like an opportunity to holistically like grab all of you guys. Cause over email, Bill kind of explained that there's members of government services had different things they were looking at that.
What kind of music will the town use?
So we were using that mix of what is it, baking soda, borax, vinegar.
Not like-
Yeah, and you've mentioned that. I think clearly what you said was if we could use something stronger.
You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, other towns do it.
Mhm.
And Charlottesville's becoming a big city and they're not gonna quit using that.
Mhm.
We have to have. Weed killer or hand dig them up, every one of them. I don't think he has time enough to dig them all up.
Mhm.
But we have to control the weeds. We have them in bricks, we have them in concrete, we have them in pavement, we have them in the drains. In the flower beds. In the flower boxes. We have vegetables now that need to go. Frost is gonna get them, and we don't need to wait another month for that. Perhaps we need to put some cocoa plants in.
Mhm.
For the fall. I know you put the banners up, but mums are pretty inexpensive.
You said there was different, you got the opinion there was different. People have different opinions or what?
No, I got the opinion, or I'll put it this bluntly. That probably I needed input from every member in government service, because what I've heard from George and comments to me, it's been
Mhm.
different from the email you had, so.
Yeah, well, all I sent in the email was, it was some trees there and it had not been weed eated. And, so I'd say probably, guess I've been on this thing for 4 years now, maybe. I'd have to look back and see how long, but, back 4 years ago, I started with this
Mhm.
process of trying to do this and, I applaud the fact that you're willing to sit down. I'm not quite sure what I can be helpful with because I've been through it with a number of different folks of sort of the expectations town council has indicated. Come up with a plan,
Yeah.
we'll do it. We had Matt Lawless there, and that way up there, and I was not involved on the hiring, so I can't say any in that, but I think it's, when you start the process, it's hard to now come back and
Mhm.
say, hey, you're not doing something that was right. And we can, but I'm just saying it's so much more difficult now if this plan that was laid out has never been followed.
Mhm.
And I understand that sort of maybe want to look at that, it's pretty,
Yeah.
go back to that plan
Yeah.
and then look at it and then, I think,
Like you, but I think Javier has a plan, it's just the town has not selected product that's powerful enough to take care of it. And the sidewalk, all the weeds and the.
Yeah, well,
fire pits need to be taken out like he did the first week he was here. He was
Right.
digging up to the funeral home and every little root of grass was coming out
Mhm.
Right.
every day. And then that kind of stopped.
so was that, is
He
that
was doing a good job of it,
right?
but it changed and stopped,
Mhm.
hadn't been repeated.
I think priorities change, so I think as with anything. can
I
say
don't
let's slow
understand
back.
with anything. If you have, this is your list, this is what you're doing, this is my job, and I'm doing this all the time. What other priorities, I guess, what other priorities is there?
Yeah.
That gets away from the primary thing 4 years ago, we were trying to, or whenever it was, to put it into place? That's my question.
I think
Is it-
momentary priorities get in the way of weekly scheduled priorities. I think that's what has happened so far.
So what I'm thinking is the same way as like trash or bathrooms
Mhm.
or a pad. Or things inside the office, that needs to be added into that kind of rhythm. Because I do think that list got lost in between hiring. Him. And
But you-
last time you shared it like. Winter of, no, right before it. So it's
Before he
maybe-
was hired, we.
Yeah,
sort of
because
had a-
we shared that
had
back
a-
because it was kind of created winter of last year.
It's been numerous ones. I think Bill,
But he started off with a bag, and I mean, it was beautiful, what it's doing, but coming down to the funeral home, you'd have been proud.
oh, I saw, I mean, it started,
It was like.
he was
just
doing
wanted
some
to
stuff. He
continue.
was visual.
But it changed.
Yeah.
And he has not gotten back to that. Habit or schedule or whatever since then.
Yeah.
And then all grown up.
It's one of those things that has to be continuous. It's, I mean, and that's you know, you can't just do it every now and then. So that's the priority thing. If that to me is the priority, everything else may just have to wait. You know, it's like, it is, I guess is my question. Once you start with a foundation of getting everything clean, and you keep doing that, and if it takes the 40 hours a week and that's all he has any time, then that's all it's gonna take. And then we have to decide if, you know, or the
I think
town has to decide if he's getting the work out of it.
For you, Javier, I think you're gonna have to figure out how many hours is that trash taking?
Mhm.
And I think I can tell you it's 2.5.
Mhm.
However many times a week you do it, I don't know.
Mhm.
But. Okay. Do all of the cans need it, because that's what they ended up finding, not all of the cans didn't even change it, so. He streamlined it down to a little over an hour, and then once a week, he did all. It helped buy a couple more hours of time.
He's back to doing the trash. We had during the time he first came, we had somebody else that was doing it, or was gone, so
That's what it is.
he's now doing the trash stuff.
Has been for quite some.
It's, you
Okay.
can't afford the other,
Okay, and then,
it's over $800 a month.
so then the grass stuff is being addressed on that. The weed spray, I mean, what is
Every
this?
time got lost,
Okay,
that's what's happened, I
I
mean,
think the weed spray is take care of a lot of the.
a lot of problems, if you just get some darn spray it and say, I'm sorry, I had to use that. It's not illegal.
One of that weed spray will actually, it's biodegradable.
Yes, there are a number of them.
Biodegradable weed spray.
I mean. Doesn't have to be a homemade remedy, we could get a professional. Product that's made just. that it will
where is the
be-
homemade remedy coming from, I guess is my question.
Oh,
What?
yeah.
No, I know, but where, I mean,
That, we're a B city, and so everybody went backwards after Stephanie's place and all that.
You're saying where did the formula come from?
no, yeah, well, it was, I mean, when when the last
Maybe
bee,
use the round, use Roundup.
when the last bee person was here,
Yeah.
before your Heather, when she was here, conversations were had with her as far as what you can use and what you cannot use for that type stuff. And she had stuff, then, you know, you could
And it
use
worked.
these and it was okay for, she was like,
It didn't affect it.
well, I don't know, but
Bloom, you're okay.
well, that's what she said, as far as some of it, it was okay, and that's where, I mean, that everybody uses this bee city type of thing,
Right.
and I
And
think it's,
Kimberly's not the one.
well, I mean, it's like nobody, it's basically what I take it is, nobody wants anything to change. You just want it to continue to look the way it is, and that's okay, if that is what the intention is, just say, Kevin, the town doesn't want it to be different.
Sometimes I would create.
I know you do. You've been vocal and I've been vocal and
I
I.
also don't think what I've been trying to do with Jam hasn't been just keeping it the same.
Mhm.
I legitimately think if you look at his work. You know, weeds have been difficult. He threw himself into, which is very, you know, just shoveling like what's Davies, the guy everybody talks about often. Who was the gentleman with the spade that?
Oh, it's Jesse,
Jesse.
yeah,
Jesse,
yeah,
until the day he died, Jesse begged to come back and fix it.
yeah.
He wanted, he loved his first.
But then, you know, for example. We never touch Bruce Park. He takes the initiative to touch on that. He'll touch upon, you know, George doesn't agree with anything, starts kind of chipping away at Canal Basin and items like that. I found him to be a lot more productive
Mhm.
than previous. And I hate to say this, maybe there's probably some streamlining. He's what, 6 months in, so maybe a year in, for example, he already started figuring out which trash cans you don't need to look at
Right,
so often. So
because you can make a Monday run and then,
you know which ones, the ones in front of
Yeah.
Baines, it's at, farmers market.
Come in the winter, it's even gonna be less,
that's right.
you know.
And then he's been chipping away at some of the, at some point out of this committee, I'm assuming we made a list. At least Bill showed it to me right before we hired, of projects to do in between, so he's knocked out some of those, reviewed those with Bill. And then some of them are still left for fall, so I talked with him about, was prioritizing this, and then I thought another. Good use of this meeting would be to also add other things we could.
I don't
put on
wanna,
there.
I don't wanna add anything until the basics are done. I could care less about any of these auxiliary lists. If you got grass growing up in the bricks, if you got
Mhm.
grass on the side, if weed eating is not done around the trees, and if you go in there and you're having a park you're trying to do and grass is around it.
Oh.
To me, this is the way I build stuff. You gotta start with the foundation. You get everything done there, and then we can have those discussions, I guess, and I
I think the other discussion now is, if he has limited time, which are priority, now that's one priority, now there are people who would say Van Cleve trails and stuff like that should be a high priority.
That's,
It can't be before our commercial center of town.
what is the
where all
most
their
important
business
thing
comes
in town? If you go to the fact of us being a town. The most money comes in from depot taxes, right? So you want to have the business district as attractive as you possibly can. Hopefully you will attract people coming into town by the beauty of that. And then you can build out from there. And I'm not saying that the park, I mean, I know Dan Gritsko has been very, big in, wanting to get some use there, but I just think that you've got to start with town proper, I mean, downtown area and
So-
having it looking as good as it
If
possibly.
you actually get a good spray. And or weeding the fire, it's gone for months.
yeah,
When
It's
I,
not
did-
like
when
it's
I did
immediately
it, I
possible.
did 4 or 5 hours of time and there was no weeds and all that stuff, all those rocks down there at the, I mean,
The rocks need to go.
well, all you have to do is put something on it that kills it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as complicated as what it's, to me,
This is the way to do it, display, it's gonna do it. I think you spray it really well. You do it once, it will last for. Come back every 3-4 weeks, you do it.
but the question is, that's not what they want to do. Sorry, I don't mean
It's
to
okay.
cut you out, but that's not what has been put in place. I mean, and I guess that's the question. What, you can jump in.
No, I was just, it's just like Kevin's point about the grass being cut, but it's not being weed whacked. Well, then you didn't cut the grass, because cutting the grass, part of that is the weed whacking. And part of that is also then blowing the grass off the sidewalk. And part of that is taking the weed whacker, turning it on its side and doing a quick edging. Real quick, because you've already edged. Instead, we just cut the grass and walked away. It's not a done job yet. It has been done that way in the past.
Mhm.
And the priority, in my opinion, and if kind of over pushing this, is that. If you stay on top of it, then it's little fixes.
Mhm.
You wait for the weeds to get this big and you throw any kind of weed killer on it, it looks like crap. If the weeds are this big, it takes nothing to spray on them, it doesn't take much spray either. And then in 3 weeks, more stuff's gonna pop, but then you spray it again.
So.
However it works, but it's not part of the routine. It's
Right.
it gets out of hand and then we have to knuckle down and take 10 times as long. So to me, we've lost that routine again. In the beginning, we were getting things I used to call it recovery. You're just going in and doing the best you can because there's 5 years of dirt in the road and you gotta get it down to something. But then that was the last time, blowing the road, blowing the street. I walk out in front of the bait shop. And not only is the blueberries, which I hate getting on the bottom of my boots because they stain my floor, but even now it's all just nuts that are being crunched and whatever, and it looks terrible. It never gets cleaned up, and unfortunately, you have to walk past that every time you empty the trash, or every time you do something. And you have to be able to notice what's going wrong and fix it. So the whole point, like with, I get that he was doing something else, but what do you call it? The tree pits?
Yeah.
Well, they're getting pretty heavy with weeds again. It's a lot easier to go in there and just knock them down when they're this big, with this little scritching tool. He was doing that, but now he doesn't do that anymore. So these are all the type of things that you maintain it looks fantastic, right? Just even like George brought up about the vegetables, whether you're into vegetables or not, it's not my thing. I prefer flowers, but if you're into vegetables, they're gonna die.
The flower boxes.
But we got a show here.
Yeah.
And we're not letting them rot until they're done. They should have been already pulled and something nice should have been replaced, whether it's a flower or a vegetable is up to you guys, but. Right now, the flower boxes don't look very good, and he's done a great job, but they don't look good, because the next step is to pull them. So he has to be able to look at this and how do I keep this. Looking really good all the time, and it's by never letting it get out of hand. We still haven't gotten past the East Main gas station. We haven't even touched all the dirt and everything that, that just stopped there. We haven't finished painting the lines. We started off good, but we haven't gotten back to it.
Yeah.
We haven't painted a single line here in the parking lot. These are all broken records. It's over and over and over and over again. But if you do things constantly, then it's easy to fix. But if you let it get out of hand, then it becomes a chore. And I know we've talked about this. We talked about it the last couple of meetings. I guess they weren't recorded, but we talked about this. This is the point. And, I think if Jam was here, no one's beating on Jam. I think he would be able to see that he's getting feedback, not only from me, but this is what people are telling me. You know what I mean? People are pointing out the bridge. George is pointing out the bridge. I didn't notice the bridge until I saw that green glow on both sides. I'm like, wow.
In front of the tavern.
Right.
It's terrible.
But that's the kind of stuff. And that's just unfortunately staying upon it. And if he can't do that, right, then someone needs to help him do that, is the point. Because it's not going to go away. And letting it get really bad. Like I've seen that with gardeners. They put tomatoes in and they get that first flush of tomatoes. And then in the last 8 weeks of the garden, it looks like total crap and they walk away from it. And then they wait until next year to pull it down. Well, I pull it down right away.
And you and Jam need to understand, those flower boxes were all donated by merchants and things. For flowers, not for vegetables. That was just a bad move that we can't repeat. We have to go back to flowers, and people like seeing them seasonally. We put something in and make it look good. You still.
I don't know if say it was a mistake. There were a lot of people that thought it was cool too. It's just my preference.
But it's
right.
But it's
that's just
cool that ARB is trying to make us one way, and the flower boxes with vegetables are certainly making us another way.
So
I was, let me just go back to,
that's a
we,
debate.
I was gonna say it's a different, but we can go back to pull out that, when it was hired, it was on you to, I guess, explain what needs to be done. I feel bad because I don't think you're qualified to explain to him what needs to be done. Nothing against you, but it's just, I know at least from the grass, that's what I did 40 hours a week, and I was really good at it. So it's hard for me to look at it and say, oh my gosh, because you just have to, it's just maintenance. It's not anything major that has to be done. And it's just like, I personally want to help Jam and say, Jam, I'll show you how to turn it and how to trim it. And then, we can look back at it, go back over it, but I don't want to overstep your boundary on it. But I do think that Jam should be a part of this, because here's what I do know. Everybody's going to have an opinion. We're all going to have opinions on what we like. And at the end of the day, he can't satisfy everybody.
But it's not meaning
it's
not meaning to pick on Jam.
Yeah.
It is to help, suggest, offer help, whatever. And all the stuff we're talking about right now, in 2 days' time, we'll be done with it for the season.
Mhm.
This year, done.
Mhm.
Be over with.
Yeah, and probably that's the value of actually sitting in on the meeting,
Right.
because hearing from the outside, there's that.
You're gonna, yeah,
I, to that point, because I knew you would respect that boundary, I told him, hey, try to find them when you're over at your office.
right.
Because I feel like it would be valuable for both of you to talk.
We are
So,
all in it to be pro.
Yeah, I'd rather be in a group setting because I may be too personalized for myself. I mean, I just want, town council said, come up with a list. We can go back to that list. That list talks about a lot of the different things that we're talking about. That list should be forefront on, I don't know if he's got a board, but it should say,
Yeah.
I mean, we had it when the trash cans were done.
Yeah.
I had it walking up in which side of the street to walk. Everybody laughed, but he's not done it.
Yeah.
I mean, they thought it was gonna be oversimplified,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, if you did that, it was
no.
exactly,
I kind of want to pull that out. 'Cause
yeah.
even starting to use a schedule on items for the bathroom. Because you might say it's oversimplify, like does this. Do below the bowl, do the above the bowl. No, it's still worthwhile.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People need
He needs
a
to
reminder.
separate items.
Yeah.
You can't tell him,
Yeah.
do the top of the wall today, but he needs to see it.
Yeah.
Water came up on the walls this weekend, the toilets. All of that's out of the window, he has to clean it down the top of it.
Mhm.
So.
And I think that's the reason that we felt Jan being here would be good,
Mhm.
because then he would get feedback
Mhm.
to understand whether or not he wants to continue. The process that he's doing, do you know what I mean? Well, I feel cutting Lindsay Street with the push mower is fine. But I never weed whacked the sign and the building,
Mhm.
so I have grass cut, and I've got tall grass, and. That's not a complete job,
Mhm.
but if he's getting feedback directly, right?
Mhm.
That's different than being told, you gotta make sure you gotta cut Lindsay.
Mhm.
Well, he is cutting Lindsay.
Yeah.
Which has never been done before, to be honest with you, but he's cutting Lindsay.
Uh-huh.
But it's not
It was
complete,
done.
But to the
The other
point,
was
like,
cut it.
that's what I'm saying.
The town paid her,
Okay.
town paid she and G.
That was a while ago, yeah, she quit on that.
But to the point, like Kevin said, it's like. Cut the grass, then you do the part around the tree.
Yeah.
And then
makes the
edges,
process.
Right,
yeah,
and you gotta blow it and everything else, yes.
and that's why you set up that system.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, to do it, yeah. That was sort of the idea, is to just remind yourself. I mean, we all do it. We all forget when we're doing stuff and then you're like, oh, I should have been
We
doing
get
this
told
along
that
the
something
way.
else is.
Or I didn't
that's out of
order
the-
this or, I mean, we do it all the time, but there's sometimes I'm sure, at least I do, I'm like, oh, gosh, I need to make sure, I've got to report back to the lender because, I mean, I do it all the time, but if you don't have it back, I mean, sometimes they don't send it. You just need a reminder and that's not a bad thing. That's why there's a system in place for what you need to do. And then once we get that system down, then we can go to the other stuff.
So basically, pull out the, sheet. That one was, it's been. Actually a good number of years.
Yes.
The Yoders walked around with me. Kim Yoder did. And we created it.
They're really gonna beat up all this storm.
Oh, really? Down there? Hmm. But is it okay for him to come to one of these meetings and,
I hope so.
and
I hope so.
do with it? Is that
I think it
possible?
would be a tremendous value
Mhm.
to you and to him. It would help you and it help him understand.
And then I'm gonna talk to you guys sometimes. You could approach it with like a compliment sandwich.
We're not here to slice and dice.
Yeah.
That is not the purpose.
Just not a generational thing, but sometimes that's the feeling if you aren't too familiar. And if it's approaching with this kind of interest in like helping the town, like. That's much more comfortable than,
Well,
just hearing outside of.
it
the
will
meeting,
help
like,
you.
like-
It will help you.
Mhm.
Would it be easier or better if he came to us to walk around with him?
It'd be great.
Walking around.
I think you're better off getting feedback. I mean, I deal with Jim every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and nothing I've said to you is gonna be probably any different than he's already heard. This is whether or not it's a priority to him, whether or not. It's one to say, well, I cut the grass, I cut the thing.
Mhm.
Yet if he has people getting feedback saying, well, I noticed you didn't do this, this and this, so I don't
Mhm.
consider it cut, it's different.
Mhm.
You know, it's not a job well done. I know he wants to do a job well done.
Yeah.
We have to define what a job well done is. That's my point.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of stuff that just gets slide. And many times when I speak to him and say, point something out, like the weed whacking on Lindsay Street, because it fell off my list.
Yeah.
And then next week he's got it done.
Yeah.
But it needs to be done every week. That's the problem. You know, when are we gonna get back to this? When are we gonna get back to that? And part of it is, I don't wanna direct him.
Yeah.
Cause that's your job.
Yeah.
And not because, oh, it's your job, it's not mine. It's, I don't want to interfere with whatever's going on. Cause I don't want Javier knocking on my door going, did you really pull him off this to do that? What the hell? Now that's half done now.
Which I've done many times here.
But that's my point. That's exactly, I believe was Kevin's point. He has no problem going out there and showing him how to do it.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to step on. If he's being told not to do that,
We're not here
then
to say.
he's not here to, you know, he's not here to contradict you.
He might not have been exposed to some of the methods and how to do it.
Yeah, and then Kevin's point is like, there's a reason I pulled you guys in because. It's not like you've seen my resume, it's not that.
Right.
Right,
The
and
reason
We
that I walk.
understand it, just like we
the
want
building
the farmer's
is-
market. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, and then like to your point, it's like, I don't wanna be blocked, he seems to be very interested in doing good work. He stays busy, but there might be, like, well, like you said. It's setting what good work looks like here, and now that we're past 6 months in. Yeah, it seems like a good time, cause at first it seemed like it was just triage purely, you know. The trash cans filled up and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I always say that in real estate, you know, people are like, how you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm really busy. Yeah, doesn't mean it's productive.
Yeah.
And I make that point,
Oh, I know.
but I am busy. So keeping busy isn't necessarily productive.
I get
And we
that.
need to get productive, is the point. We need to get to the next stage.
I understand that, my former boss says, and never say busy, say you're being productive, even in the passing, you know, how you doing, all right?
well, see, the crazy thing about it is. It's so easy to see productive. And so easy to see just being busy. All you gotta do is walk up and down the street and see it's not being
Right.
productive. If you know what you're looking for. And that's a struggle for me. Cause all I'm seeing is not productive. And that's all I'm saying, but I don't want him to think he's not being productive. I mean, you know, I just, cause he may not have been shown that list of, and he may not have been told.
I don't
This is
think
what
he
you're doing.
understands the value in seeing those bricks clean and sanded. I don't understand because he's never seen it that way.
Uh-huh.
I mean. That's a big deal to the state, how, when we get all that. We need to keep it there. And these tree pits. It didn't take him a half an hour each to clean them up, to be weed free, they were weed free for 2 months probably. So. It won't take that long for him to complete the process, like Kevin said. And he was up there just smiling and having a good time doing it. He was. You know, people were complimenting him and he was smiling all day with it.
Well, it's tough,
It's a
because
tough
everyone
job.
wants to talk to him.
No, but yeah, that's true.
I'm being serious.
Oh, I know.
I always kid around with him and say, you know, 5 minutes, just give him 5 and then tell him you gotta get back to work. And he's going, yeah, but I've been talking to you for 15. Yeah, that's different.
Right.
But it's
Yeah,
tough.
but, you know.
Wait a minute, that's
The other part of the,
It's difficult.
that I would say is. He is the most visible person
Absolutely.
in town.
Yes.
He is the face of Scottsville. So unfortunately, he's gonna be talked to. They're gonna say, hey, if they see him out doing stuff, they're gonna ask, hey, what directions or how do I get here? Or, I was here for 5 hours and I had 3 people ask stuff. Hey, how do I get to Charlottesville? Where's the shopping center? I mean, you know, he's gonna. I mean, you know, make light of it, but that's what you want. You want that.
But I think one of the things we
job, because. You wanna get a good impression of the town.
Yeah.
And then, if he takes some time off, actually maybe be in the scheduled time to interact as required. You know, there should be some flexibility in that.
We talked about in the interview for him being an ambassador for the town,
There,
those words.
yeah,
And also, put him in a town of Scottsville shirt, Dave,
Yeah,
make it,
that's not gonna work.
I think.
I'd love
I
to
think
see
keeps the
that.
morale with this
I'd like
guy.
to see that.
Yeah, that's
But-
People won't recognize it. Jam's jam.
But
It's true. I'm not
No,
kidding.
you are right, that's why I'm laughing.
It's jam. That's what you want. You know. And I don't mean to cut on it, but I'm just saying, I think with jam, that's gonna be an issue. Not because of him, I'm just saying it would be better just to leave that alone, in my opinion, but.
Being affable and conversation, like, yeah,
But also too. Talking to someone for a half hour.
Yeah.
While you're in the middle of trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
You can limit yourself, say, hey, I gotta get back to work. Hey, I gotta get back to,
I do the same thing, yeah.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, I've gone up a couple of times just to break it up. I go, Jesus, he's talking to George, that'll be a half hour.
okay, is there anything else?
I take one other thing. I still think that, I think the town needs to consider the, formation or some plan for the pumping of the levee stuff. I know that you've got the volunteers, fire department doing it. But I can tell you that those days they're still doing it. I want them to last forever. All I'm saying is they're not gonna be here forever. And I really think that there needs to be some town part of that. And you know, ideally, and not ideally, but you know, ideally, the ambassador, Jam could be part of that as far as if he's here and can run those pumps and as far as the cross training of that, I just think that if we don't do it, at some point, y'all gonna look and say, how this happened? And it's not gonna be me to look at it, cause I'm telling you, it's coming.
Keep up with the servicing of everything down there, there's fuel that's left, we need more.
Yeah, Tim's doing a good, that's sort of Tim's
Doing a good
job.
job, he's being
but-
paid to do it.
Yeah, but
And
it's,
Scott is trying to follow a lot of his footsteps, currently still does a lot of work, but average age is beyond. Where most people do this stuff. Now, we did say when he was being hired, that that's what we wanted to happen. That then, when they do the drill to put up the floodgates, he needs to be there, even if we pay him overtime.
Okay. He's already scheduled to do that, I
When,
already told him. Cause guys yesterday said November, so I gave him a heads up.
okay, and he can make it, he can work with him ahead of time. There's a pain in the ass cleaning those little grooves out, to be able to put the gates up. Somebody has to take a couple of hours with the vacuum cleaner, getting all the grit out from
Which
it.
he's done,
So it'll, yeah,
which he has done.
yeah, but to continue to stay up with that, just simple.
well, I was thinking more of like some type of recognized community group or something.
Yes.
That could start
Yeah,
coming in,
it needs to
that
happen.
could still have the fire department involved, but some type of like volunteer set up to where it's a little bit of both. So as we navigate from the volunteers, you know, maybe this group could be, because there's probably potentially citizens that might be interested in spending a couple
And
hours
all things there ought to be a grant for.
to do
I
that.
would imagine we could get money for that,
This-
but
this
from
is-
FEMA alone.
Yes, I've been talking to the fire department quarterly since I started, well, trying to.
Mhm.
Stuff comes up, and the biggest thing they pointed out is that, well, first it was with evacuations, because if they start running the pump, doing service calls, for example, evacuations. And then I had a conversation with them where my concern has been the same as you, it's like having support for the running of those pumps seems to be kind of a possible deficiency in the future, so like that one storm we had, Tim, Jam and I went up there, ran the pumps once, sent him back yesterday because his house was such a mess that we didn't even know if he was gonna be able to get back, but in a different context, he's at least trained it once, we're probably gonna have to be babysitting a little while longer before they even let us on our own. But him being part of that wall is a stay. I thought of using CERT maybe as an avenue for volunteers, but the fire department said that they're much more amicable to them assisting with evacuations, especially if they're really busy. But with running the pumps, they don't feel comfortable with that volunteer force yet. And then yesterday I thought, and they mentioned it to me before, it's like, is there another way we could find some kind of you said it right, some affinity group, I guess is the way. People that would help.
Just like interested folks that, I mean, for so long, the fire department has had enough people in it that they could staff it all the time. That is dwindling. The fire department, again, they would not like it if I say this, but I mean, at some point, it's not going to exist as it exists now. They can see the writing on the wall. And when that comes, what's going to happen with the running of that if the volunteer fire department does not exist? The rescue squad, the keys were locked and the members of the rescue squad were locked out of the building because they weren't providing service to the folks, and that happened overnight.
Yeah.
If that happens overnight in this situation, and I'm not saying they may not care and still want to volunteer. What I'm saying is something needs to be put in place now, maybe talking to Tim, maybe starting a group of people that want to be interested.
Tim is responsible enough for the fact, when he's preparing to go on vacation, and he goes to Canada quite often, he does. He makes sure he has people that know they have to take over.
Yeah, that is.
They do not leave town, they do not anything, just to do that. But we're talking about the pumping station. If we don't control Mink Creek ahead of time, both letting water out as much as we can to provide, place to store some of this extra water, we really screwed up. And that knowledge comes from people like Berkeley and Tim that they're doing this regularly. They're out there in the pouring rain before this river is even out 6 feet. They know what's coming.
I don't think people understand the levee system and how it all works. You all may understand it here, but I mean, I was talking to him yesterday. I had no idea that the pond area that's there is only 1 million gallons.
Which is
1 million gallons. No, so like where my office is, it can get legally an inch on my ground floor.
Yeah.
Okay, all that area behind there, an inch on my floor is 1 million gallons.
Yeah.
Okay, when those pumps are all pumping, they can only get 3 million gallons out an hour. Okay, so they only have a 15-minute thing. If those pumps don't work, it got a little close. They were losing ground. They were pumping and it was still going up. It doesn't, all it would take is one of those in the Mint Creek in this area for us to have a heavy downfall. And the best thing is it to be open, the creek to go through. That takes more than what it can go. But when that water comes up from the river and gets to a spot where we have to block it off, those pumps have to be manned and be ready to go, and you cannot let that get behind.
River has to be
13 feet.
13 feet is when they start, and it takes 20 minutes to lower to shut off the sluice gate.
Yeah, it's not a button.
It's electronic, but then it can go manually, but it can.
And up here, they have to be back and forth doing all that.
And you've got to lower up here for that earthen dam to make as much runoff be able to go into Scottsville Lake.
5 acres to 19 acres of water.
Well, to get back on subject, even it not being like catastrophic, like everybody's gone who can work it. Even something as, because I thought about this last year, even having a group that would help them, even if they're like, doing 4 or 5 hours overnight. somebody, Jam and me could step in on that, but like, just so they can go home and take a shower and all. I know they shift around and everything, but
They're back and forth, but each of them, when it's running, each of them are going probably 8 to 12 hours. They're not 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
You're learning and learning too.
yeah,
But
I don't think they can let me loose yet.
But to me, the issue with even relying on you and Jan, if weather is in bad condition, you might not be able to be here.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like with me shoveling the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me 2 days to get out of my driveway.
No.
So for 2 days, it wasn't shoveled. There's nothing I can do about that. If I can't get out, there's nothing I can do. So that's the issue, is it has to be people in town
But
that can get to.
running the pumps is only part of it. You're supposed to have how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of sandbags ready that you could put sand in. There was one point they were rotted, so you couldn't else sand if you wanted it. Gotta maintain all of that. And FEMA will write you up for that one, I can tell you.
I just want to make it,
Or put in front of businesses and stuff, such to try to help any water backing up
Along the,
along wherever, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, like FEMA came in May. We had some that were by one of the gates, those are getting replaced, but then the ones within the building are fine for now, so they check that.
Oh, yeah.
and it's good that they come and check it. And,
That's
and,
exactly-
and I just want to make sure the town is prepared.
Yeah.
And, and I do think that I think we need to be looking at trying to get a core group of individuals that are sort of cross-trained or something to do that. And I think that when they have stuff, I think the town should pay for food for them
Yes.
to do that. I don't think it should be something, I
Well-
mean, and those, I'm just saying, you give them some food, it may stay a little bit longer.
I think you guys, fire department guys,
Mhm.
I think we ought to be doing something every time they're down there. As a tenant. Hot coffee even,
Yeah,
some, you know.
Did,
some
Did-
stuff about it. And I'm sure that if you deal with, pick a name off, pick a market up here, they'd work out something really nice with you. They're pretty good corporate citizens.
George has mentioned to me, when I said I was gonna pick a pizza for them, they seemed surprised. And then-
Oh, yeah.
People haven't done that
If the
before.
Tims did a spaghetti dinner for them even one year,
Yeah.
they would fall over.
And then
The
my,
thanks the town gives the fire department is pretty minimal, as you know, we're being involved with rescue squad, kind of minimal. Support for that to get
well,
bad.
I've thought about that group before, but I can't figure it out. The fire department suggested maybe trying to get chamber to participate in some way to get a group.
Mhm.
I don't know, at this point, I'm asking for your guys' help also on this.
Fortunately, I think it has to be people that are within walking or commuting distance.
It's
And
not
most of
every
the people in
chamber,
chamber are not in town, this is the problem. That's a plan to fail in my opinion.
Unfortunately, a lot of chamber members live in town.
That's
A lot of the chamber members probably don't even understand the concept of what.
Yes.
I mean, and then that's the thing that, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but this could be a bowl. And, it wouldn't take a lot. That's what I'm saying. You could have, 5 inches of rain and you could have all these businesses down here flooded.
Mhm.
And everybody's gonna be like, how'd that happen? Well,
could you, well, then, I mean. It sounds to me that the recruitment has to be people in the businesses that live within town. That's to be, people going door to door to each of them and explaining what the issue is. Definitely on where, East Main is, the garage and, the houses, those 2 houses next to it, and then where your office is and all the apartments, the trouble is those guys, people are going to be coming in and out.
the trains
They're
in.
not the owners. But, those are definitely people that are having a lot of stake in making sure that this works. And I'm not sure that any of them know about that.
I don't know, and I don't even know if we need an answer. I know we've been talking about it for 20 minutes, but my point is that we probably
Yes.
need to be leaning towards this and
Sure.
it should be something that's on the forefront and we don't have to have answers today, but just if you can brainstorm and if you think of anything, and I agree, somebody's got to speak.
That's why our fire department is a donation possibility, because even just the fireworks, they're really proud of the fireworks. And that would be meaning a lot to them.
You figure, I mean, we pay a maintenance person, whatever, we pay you however much. Those people do that for free.
Yeah.
You know, they don't get paid. They
Got
take
it.
away. And what
Use
I was
their
talking to
gas.
Sid was like, we're getting less and less people that are willing to take off work. That's what you did. You just sort of, I mean, took off work to run calls. I mean, I did it for
Yeah.
Rescue Squad for years. Yeah, we'd take off work to run, to
Mhm.
volunteer. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, because
And-
those guys, when they were working, they would take days off of their own work time.
They would.
Stay down here running the pumps.
And most people don't do that. That's not
No.
what people do. People don't understand that volunteering concept. So, and it's getting rarer and rarer. So we need to come up with something, or even start budgeting something. Even if you were paying the people per hour to run the pumps or something. I don't know what you do, but just start thinking about it. That's all.
Probably really pretty, probably worth paying people to it. And then we also know about. Thinking about professional organizations. The fire department here, is any of those paid?
No,
They're not. I'm just wondering, is it worth contacting the fire department? The Elmore, general Elmore Fire Department. About them as being backed up, because they're part of.
no, this was agreed.
You get one group of guys one day and one group another day. You would have a trained staff in here most likely.
And their job is not gonna be to protect the town of Scottsville. Theirs is gonna be to provide
They'll be
fire and
guys that are
services.
fire, So they're the just one.
I'm thinking of, in an emergency, what's their priorities?
It's not to run those pumps and
Flooding and stuff like that.
they're running calls, rescue calls,
The
swift water rescue. They're doing
Yeah.
people that are sick.
Then. Who doesn't want to rescue?
Fire department.
Fire department.
Fire department, but likely there'll be Albemarle will probably have something down here at some point.
I think it's just like when. Reminding Albemarle County that we have a park up there and if someone gets. Hurt, how do you get to them? Right, I reminded them about it, but also
You
too,
got
in
right,
that
right, you
same,
can't get there right now.
in that same plan. There really needs to be something that has to do with the pumping stations, since we've been taking care of it for over the last 30 years. But just like the park, just because it's in our town doesn't mean. Your guys aren't
We still
responsible.
fire the stuff around Mark County.
Well,
They're supposed to be
and everyone pays taxes to them, so.
They don't,
But I'm saying it needs to be put
they
back
don't
on.
use any of their tax dollars to clean it up or mow it. And like Matthew said,
But it
the
needs-
road is in such bad condition. If somebody fell in and needed emergency vehicles in there, we couldn't get them down the road.
But it needs to be put back on the radar, that's all. And we found out at the park, it wasn't on their radar. So the pumping station needs to be put back
No.
on the radar.
Didn't somebody say that there was some money? That Albemarle County? Was it?
Javier's been checking into that.
Okay.
$30,000 a year from.
I wish, 20.
We get 20,000.
Javier has actually been working on that. I had a discussion in a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but Javier's been
An
working on it.
agreement to set aside so much money. Also, so that if one of those diesel engine gives up, we can afford to pay for it, replacement immediately. And or, I mean, right now, they generally don't run all three.
Mhm.
They run 2 engines full out.
Yeah.
And have 1 in reserve. But just something simple as, hey, how much diesel do we have left? Did we use the old tank or the new tank? I'm sure that they do switch out. They just don't run diesel out of a tank.
Oh,
They
no,
run the oldest first.
I remember I took, Tim switches them around, he
Yeah.
explained the process he has there.
Yeah.
But to the
It's a
point,
very good plan.
but to the point is like you wanna build that into
And so.
a future, cause, you know, Tim's young, but
He's young, but he's retired already.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be polite.
Yeah.
Can, I gotta send out an agenda. Can I step away? I gotta go write a letter. It's, I think after 5 right now.
Yeah. it's 5:15. I didn't have anything else.
But. And please invite you for the next one, football varsity.
Okay,
Okay.
I just,
We won't.
yeah, keep it productive.
Yeah.
All
Of course
right.
we can.
We're all interacting with them every day.
That's what I-
might spend with all the things that still need to get done, yes. But what's not going to get.
Okay. That's all I
Not familiar.
because it won't be anything new that there's a
See,
variety of things.
Javier didn't tell you. That's what it'll be.
Well,
What was that?
that's
I
easier
said,
for
what do you
me.
mean? Javier never told you this.
Well, I mean,
But
I,
I prefer that actually, like legitimately.
well, I mean, I don't mind going however you want to. I mean, you know, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Did he ever get the mower fixed, where you could take yours back out of service?
Oh, mine, he hadn't used it except for that first day. I mean, he only used it for one time.
What else? That was the main part, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and I've already talked to Javier, but I think it needs to be put back on the radar with the FEMA map. So we don't lose all the money the town's invested.
Yeah.
And it needs, you know, every year, it doesn't happen, some of our business owners or building owners are paying flood insurance they don't have to pay.
Yeah.
So just get that back onto old business. Meaning for council, you know.
Did the rescue squad members, when they were, well, here, did they get any benefit, like, real estate taxes or something?
No, you got a, personal property discount for like your car, if you were in Albemarle and Fluvanna, you sent something down, it's over the years, you got a, I don't know, $500, 200, I mean, something, and then they went, when Albemarle County, they would pay them when they would be there on staff, so you would get a stipend for food.
Mhm.
That was part of Albemarle County into the volunteer system, you would get a $20 to go out to eat, or 15, I can't remember what it was, that was after me, but they sort of tried to.
After that was boxed up, left on the table.
Well, I mean,
Unfortunately.
maybe not, but I mean, it would go towards
They
it,
took a call
and
rather than-
yeah. There's different things that
Well,
that was done.
maybe the county could help participate in some of that. For some volunteers that are pitching in to be on duty.
We just have to be careful, there's still an edge between the volunteer fire department and their territory.
Oh, you're
I
right.
don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah, definitely.
And the two, so we don't.
Yeah,
we
and
just gotta
they're,
be-
Just to
Be careful
bolster the
about that.
support is what we need.
but just sort of going along that standpoint is they're bringing an engine down.
I know that. I've always said
So it's coming, and it's gonna be,
Right.
so you're gonna have to sort of competing
They
structure.
have one that now have it rebuilt.
No, Albemarle will be staffed fire
Oh.
there.
For sure.
Is there gonna be an Elmore, is there gonna be an Elmore staff in here?
Yes, not in the volunteer.
Right.
And
Is our meeting open?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you turn that off? Because what we're doing is having a private conversation.
Yeah.
Here.
Not sure.
Let's get Javier and show you how to.
Yeah, about how to-
No.
Yeah, I see that.
So stop.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Down there.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, well.
People don't ask. Well, that's what-
Yeah, I think we had a start meeting
Absolutely.
and an end meeting.
Mine's a little shaky.
Well, accounting staff. Yeah. So. Actually, I have the Zoom meeting over on that screen, so move the mouse all the way left. And then, you'll see end in the bottom right corner there. Yeah, you see it, kind of. Yeah, end right there. Just go right over the screen and.
Go by the chair.
Move the mouse over,
Move it around here.
and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
And for all.